Hey there, my name is Megan and today I'm doing another furniture flip. You guys seem to really like these and I recently acquired a new piece of furniture that needs some love and I'm calling it a bar. I'm really not quite sure what you would call this. I'm almost 100% that it's Ethan Allen. A lot of the things in the house that I acquired it from were Ethan Allen, so I'm going to assume that it is, even though I cannot find a tag or sticker on it anywhere. As you may know, I normally use Annie Sloan's chalk paint on my furniture projects, but I wanted to try something different today, and so I'm going to be using Fusion Mineral Paint. I'm really excited to use it because I really love the way the jar looks. I love that I can actually see the color of the paint inside of it. So my plan is to sand the top on this. I think I want to expose that wood and I want it to just be a really nice wood top. And then I'm gonna paint the bottom with the Fusion Mineral Paint. I'm really not sure what I'm gonna do for hardware. So you guys are just kind of along on the journey, on the ride with this project, and I'm going to try to share as much information as I can about this paint. And I'm also going to do a little bit of comparison contrast with chalk paint in this as I go along. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, I am at Megan Bell Made, and I always share what I'm doing in real time on my stories. So if you want to keep up with that, make sure you give me a follow over there. And without further ado, let's get started. So before I did anything else to this piece of furniture, I went ahead and I started sanding the top because I wanted it to be that really natural wood on top. And much to my surprise, after sanding for a few minutes, I realized that the top is not actually real wood. The border for the top was real wood. I sanded it and the finish came off so easily, but the actual top is just a piece of laminate. And lesson learned, now I know when I see a piece of furniture like this, that it is not real wood all throughout. So I'm going to nix that plan and I'm just going to paint everything. All I'm using to clean this is simple green, and I cleaned this for like 2 hours. I'm not kidding. Prep is everything when it comes to painting furniture. Your piece needs to be super, super clean. I don't recommend using anything but simple green. It's what works for me. I don't have good luck with using vinegar or TSP. I find that the paint does not adhere as well. And with this, you can basically just use a sponge, and you can see how dirty this is, and then rinse it as you go. Once I got all the hardware off and the doors off, I turned my piece on its side. I do like to paint the legs first. I don't like to paint the legs while they're on the floor. So this is what I do with a larger piece like this or anything that has legs. So another thing I like about this paint so far is that I was able to just shake it and I didn't have to stir it. I just shook it before I opened it up. I'm just using a regular old paintbrush here, nothing fancy. It's just a 1.5 inch regular paintbrush. You guys, I'm a little shocked at how nicely this stuff goes on. I immediately am falling in love with this. I don't have to mix any water into it like I do with chalk paint. It's very easy to use. It goes on like butter, just so easy. The paint viscosity is on the thinner side, but it has great coverage. Aside from consistency, one of the main differences I can see in this paint is that you do have to use nice strokes when you do it. With chalk paint, you can kind of be messy and go in different directions. With this paint, you definitely want to go all in the same direction. As it's drying, I'm noticing that it definitely has a very matte feel to it. It's similar to chalk paint in that way, but it's not quite as matte and chalky as chalk paint is. So I hope that makes sense. It's still very matte, still very chalky to the touch, but just not quite as chalky as chalk paint. The The second coat went on even better and faster than the first coat, which is shocking because the first coat was so easy to apply. And I just want to show you guys real quick how I hold my brush when I am doing this, because if you don't hold it like this, your hand will tend to get really tired. So I highly suggest that. I also want to mention that the dry time on this paint is pretty quick. It's not as fast as chalk paint, but it is definitely much faster than any other type of paint that I've used. And so by the time I was finished painting my first coat, I was able to just start applying my second coat where I had started my first coat. Just as I suspected, I only had to do 2 coats to get the coverage that I was looking for. I did go back and just do a little touch up here and there as a third coat, but not a full third coat, obviously. This is a 16-ounce container. I used the entire thing almost, and you can't see this in the video, but I painted the front and the back of this buffet because it has both sides. So I think this has amazing coverage. Because this is my first time using this paint, I did make some mistakes. So I am grabbing my sanding block with some 320 grit sandpaper. I'm just gonna sand the top smooth because I can see some of my brush strokes. Now, I could have avoided this had I been a little more careful with my brush or if I had rolled it out, but because I didn't, I want to make sure it's really nice and smooth. I'm just gonna sand it and get it really nice and smooth. So Fusion Mineral Paint makes a lot of different types of finishes, but the one I'm using right now is just going to be this crystal clear water-based poly and a satin finish because I want to add a little bit of shine. You don't have to seal your Fusion Mineral Paint with anything if you don't want to. It does have a top coat built into it. However, like I said earlier, it has a very matte feel to it. So for me personally, I don't really like that feeling and I want to make sure I seal it with something. And you have options with Fusion Mineral Paint. Like I said before, they have a wipe on matte poly. They also have waxes. And I also saw that you could just use a regular water-based polyurethane like I am. While my poly is drying, I decided to try my hand at cleaning the hardware that came with it, and I'm using Barkeeper's Friend. And I just used a sponge and I made a little paste, and holy moly, I could not be more surprised at what was underneath all the black crud on this hardware. You guys love the final product as much as I do. I have a feeling I'll be talking about this paint a lot in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on my next project.